Okay, so welcome to this free call about the journey that is Elemental Eros, version 6. Can't quite believe that we're about to enter into the 6th edition of this journey. It's very exciting, and every spiral it gets deeper and richer, and that's partly the potency of the women that arrive and delve in and give themselves to this journey. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the journey and then answer any questions in a so this is just going to be like a free-flowing conversation. I've just come from the retreat in Crete, which was amazing because it was 2 years since we got to be in the flesh together. And obviously being in the flesh and being on the land, it's ignited and activated a whole other level of depth and energetics of the container, which feels so potent and so exciting. And one of the things that I found myself saying at the opening ceremony was that we are cultivating our vessels, our chalices, so that love can pour in. So what do I mean by that? So I believe in my own personal journey, and also collectively here, supporting and guiding not just women but all beings, that this phenomena of love is the experience that we've incarnated into this existence to experience. And yet I'm just muting a few people if you're unmuted. And yet this phenomenon of love, I feel, is one of the things that eludes us most in our human condition, because and brings us much turmoil, I guess, because it's not just a human experience, it's a divine experience. And yet we've reduced it. There's that D.H. Lawrence quote that says the catastrophe of love is that we've tried to put it in a civilized vase on the table, when actually love is a very wild and mystical experience. And in order to really fully experience the magnitude of what I call the greatest love affair of our lives, the first step, which is spiral 1, is that we cultivate our intrapsychic containers of our psyches, of our souls, to be able to become a vessel that is like the holy grail chalice, where the spirit of love can pour in. And that spirit and that experience of love is a spiritual experience, and we make it human by having a healthy vessel. If we don't have a healthy vessel, and our vessel is cracked and fragmented, and love literally leaks out and eludes us, and it causes us much strife and much pain and much suffering. So this is what I found myself saying on the journey, on the beginning of the Elemental Eros retreat, is that we're forging our vessels to become, we're forging our chalices to become a vessel of love, so that love can pour in. And that experience of love pouring in, when we cultivate this chalice, this intrapsychic chalice, and we allow love pour in, then we open to this experience of this the kind of divinity within our human experience with it. We open to this frequency of love, and we open to this innate erotic connection that we have to the whole of life. And that is a game changer. It's a shift in our understanding of who we are, and our understanding of not just who we are on a personal level, but also in relationship to the whole web of creation. So really opens the doorway. I call it kind of like the get out of jail free card, the doorway to another way of being and perceiving and being in relationship with not just ourselves, but also with another, and also with the earth, and also with the great mystery. So it's kind of like we forge our vessels to have this experience of love, which is inside of us, which is always inside of us, but we're most often seeking outside of ourselves. And so we can really embrace kind of like the divinity and the magnitude and the miracle of this life. So that was a lot of a little bit of a download. I'll just pause there and see if there's any questions. That's kind of like a little bit of like the philosophical kind of content, I guess. So yeah, any questions based on what I've just said? Does it make sense? Yeah, nodding, great. So yeah, you've got a question, go for it.
Yeah, one of the pieces of this that I've heard you talk about a little bit lately since coming back from Crete is like the kind of the two different stories of love, right? The true story and the not true story. And I feel like you've spoken to like the truth of love, and I'm really curious to get to hear more about the kind of the untrue story, the not true story, the too small story as well. That I think, yeah, just to kind of get an understanding of that side of things.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that question. So this kind of came to me as I was sitting there in the cafe on the edge of the ocean I was just about to go into the retreat with Spiral 2 and Spiral 3, and I had all of their notes because I track people by taking notes, and I was reading through all of their notes. And then I started to, and which I've had, I've got some of them I've got like 4 or 5 years worth of notes. And then, so I was reading through all of these notes, and I started to see this pattern, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because when we embark on the soul journey, so essentially Spiral 1 is about cultivating the psyche, which is psyche is soul. And nobody teaches us how to cultivate psyche. Like we come into the world, we're conditioned into being in this, to conforming to our societal way of functioning, which is very kind of ego led. And yet the soul is the life that's underneath it, is wanting to crack through and wanting to come to the surface. But nobody teaches us how to cultivate soul. So the first spiral of Elemental Eros, that's what we're doing. We're cultivating the psyche, we're cultivating soul, we're cultivating the chalice. And then it's got a chalice that's kind of whole, integral. Then what starts to happen is the deeper life, the life beneath, the fragmented life, starts to crack through and come through. And I've seen that as the great love affair of our lives, the love story, the great love story of our lives, the love story, the story that's underneath, the soul story is the love story of our lives that's trying to crack through. What I mean by the non-story, the non-true story, is what our fragmented ego, which comes from a state of disconnection. So the love story is the story that we've come to live, that is our place within the web of creation itself. So that love story is the way that we're woven into the web. It's our destiny, it's our soul, it's our truth, it's our true essence, it's our true expression. And then the non-true story is the story that we have been conditioned into and led to believe, that comes from the trauma of the disconnect from the web. So that disconnect from the web has us in a state of isolation, non-belonging, pain, suffering, has us in insecurity, doubt, fears, has us believing a lot of our kind of neuroses that are a result of the disconnection from the web. So that is the non-true story, and most people and in our culture and the way that we've spent their whole lives living the non-true story, spend the whole lives living in that perpetual state of the trauma of the disconnection. And that's not our natural state, that's not our organic state, that's not what we've come to live, that isn't the world that that is around us. So the task, the first step of Elemental Eros is beginning to cultivate inside of us the resources, the vessel, the intrapsychic vessel that allows us to open to the love story, to the great love story of our lives. So we have to come to know that we are capable, worthy, and to feel somatically phenomena, this frequency of love in our own beings. And we can hold it, and we can sustain it, and we can stand in it, and we can claim, begin to come to know on a somatic level that we're woven by earth and stars and moon dust and rivers and the great cosmos unfolding. And then we start to get a glimpse of that. We can enter into kind of the belly of Gaia, of Earth herself, and begin to track, begin to court, begin to bring out of the dungeon in that's like the true love story. So that's kind of like where we go on spiral 2 and spiral 3. We go down into this descent, and then spiral 3 we come into the embodiment of it, and we stand in the kind of expression and truth and emanation of our love story. So that's kind of the journey is about remembering our love so that we can weave ourselves back into the web and live our love story. Does that answer your question? Great. Any other questions based on what I've just said?
I have a question, Kate. It's not specifically based on what you just said, so I'm happy to wait if you've got more to say first. But it was just around, so I was just looking at your write-up about what you offer on the programme, and there was something about working with the land, and I was kind of curious, because obviously we're going to be online, right, for our meetings. I think they would be fortnightly, wouldn't they, aside from in Crete? So I'm just kind of curious, like how you work with that, whether you will invite us to go out on the land at other times, or
Exactly, yeah. So you're gonna be in a cauldron, you're gonna be in a container, so you're gonna get the material, we're gonna have the live calls, you get the dance, and then also the invitation is to go out on the land. So I'm gonna set you like personalized invitations for each module for you to then take it out onto the land and have go and have this wild experience with the material that we're working. So I call them the inner temple and the outer temple practices. So your inner temple practices is kind of what you're doing with the inner alchemy and energetics, and then the outer temple is how you take that into the world, into your connection with the natural world. So it becomes like a weaving, it becomes like a figure of 8. And so you're doing your inner alchemy, and then you're taking it out into this conversation with the natural world. You're learning how to commune with the nature mysteries, and then that comes back into your being, and you weave it. So it doesn't become this, like, it becomes this you start to weave yourself back into you're woven into the web in that way. So yeah, the nature practices are really part of the journey, and you'll have chance to kind of feed what happens on during those experiences into the container when you come back.
Yeah, thank you. I love that weaving between the two. Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah, I mean, it's when we do the inner work to then take it out into the natural world, and it enhances the conversation, not just for ourselves but also for the world. So you taking your alchemy out into the wild feeds the wild, and then you're fed by the wild. And so it's like this, and this is an aspect of the love affair that is for me elemental. It's like, you know, that deep love that comes from our connection to the natural world is such a foundational piece of who we are indigenously as human beings, that we've forgotten how to have these conversations. We've forgotten how to lean and trust and commune with the nature mysteries, and we're starving, we're deprived as beings because of that. And our love then becomes like reduced to kind of like this, you know, insurmountable pressure on relationships, and it's really detrimental, I feel, to our human condition to have forgotten how to access that love. So I'm really yeah, the nature practice is a really important part of this journey.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So following on from that, I was wondering if you'd be able to speak to how someone who lives in a more urban area with less access to nature might be able to engage with those practices. Yeah,
I mean, it's great because, I mean, some of the women or quite a few of the women that are already in the spirals, you know, live in cities, and they just go out into their parks and they start to build like intimate relationship with a tree that becomes a portal that nobody know, that, you know, they know it's a portal, you know. So it's like, you can even do it in your backyard. There's like, you could do it on a balcony. It's really your embodied consciousness that allows for this conversation to happen. So it's great if we have a massive expanse of wilderness, and everything is wilderness, even the concrete. So, you know, you could do this with a weed next to a lamppost if you needed to, you know. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love that. The weed next to the lamppost as an expression of wilderness. That just really speaks to my heart.
Great. Great. Any other questions?
Hi. Yeah, thank you for speaking to that. I am interested, kind of following up from that as well. If you can speak to a little bit more about the 3 spirals and how that nature piece is, and like the communion between inner nature, outer nature, is woven through the different parts of the spirals. And also I'm just interested to hear more about the spirals, because I know there's like a vision quest component. I have been a follower of Bill Plotkin's work for several years. And so I'm like familiar with like that terminology, but I'm interested in how you incorporate like the vision quest piece into like the later spirals, and just how kind of like that process unfolds through the program.
Yeah, great. So thank you for that question. What happens is, in the first spiral, so we're cultivating this map of the psyche, map of the soul. We're kind of like creating this vessel, this intrapsychic vessel that is strong enough and solid enough for this embodiment conversation with love. And then once we start to cultivate that within us, we start to see that the story that we've been living by isn't the true story of our lives. And then something like a trapdoor opens. So like spiral 1 is really about, you know, coming into these resources, these innate and organic resources within ourselves and within the natural world. And once we start accessing them, our sense of who we are begins to expand, and the stories that we've been telling ourselves start to slip away. And then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, and so this isn't who I am, and this story isn't true about me. So who am I? And then it's kind of like, then spiral 2 takes you into that kind of more mystical descent, where we embark on discovering like the truth of your soul. And part of that quest is the vision fast ceremony, where you spend 4 days fasting and 3 nights out in the wild. And you're kind of making yourself vulnerable to the mystery, to reveal to you kind of the truth of your destiny and of your soul. And so, and then you come, hopefully, if you know everything goes well and you're empty enough and vulnerable enough and humble enough to receive something of that gnosis, then you come back with something of the deeper thread of your life, and that's that deeper thread of your life is how you are embedded within the web. And then when we start to pull on that and start to welcome that, we then go into spiral 3, which is about you coming into the embodiment of that. So you coming into the transmission to like, this is the truth of who I really am. And you start telling that love story, and you start living that love story, and you start creating from that love story. So it's kind of like, it's a very kind of shamanic descent into the belly of the earth, into the underworld, into the psyche, the soul, the mysteries, the feminine mysteries, so that you can really come back as this woman who knows and is embodied in her love, as not just for yourself, but as medicine for the world, because it's a personal journey, but it's for the collective, it's for the web. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it answers a part of the question, which is like how the process kind of works, the inner process develops. But I'm also interested in how, like you were speaking to, that, you know, that there will be these like assignments of kind of, that you were kind of saying of like, go, you know, to go out and then to come in, and there's kind of a process. Like I'm sort of asking about the container and how that's supporting that process, that inner process that's unfolding through the time. Mm-hmm.
So spiral 1 is a 5-month container initially, with the option to go also to the retreat in Crete. So you'll get 9 modules, and they drop every 2 weeks. So you have 1 module dropped, and then you have a week to be with the material. Then we have a live mentorship call. So then you get to bring any of your questions or anything that you need support with. And then you've got another week to deepen into the material based on that mentorship call. So you've got 2 weeks to really like chew and digest and like imbibe the material. And then you've also got the meditation dance, the deep feminine meditation dance, which allows you to bring it into body, which is kind of part of the inner temple practice. And during those 2 weeks, you can do as many nature wonders as you want, but you know, if you get to do 1, that's great. So you've got these 2 weeks to be with each module, to receive the transmission of the teaching, come to the calls, bring all of your inquiries, move it in the dance in your inner temple practice, take it out into the wild. And so and then there's 9 modules, so we kind of, it's a container of 5 months. So we work all of this material online together. It's really rich and really potent. And then if you choose, we get to go to the retreat in Crete, where we come together, having already worked a lot of material, and we deepen into it in an embodiment together in the container on the land. And it's like, what happens there is, you know, the last 2 years that I've offered it, it's like the earth shakes. It's like so powerful, and you arrive already like steeped in the material. So it's just kind of like, it's just another layer of like, and we really, you know, it ignites something very powerful. So that's the first spiral. And then if you choose to go into the second spiral, then, you know, it's a different setup, but it's also kind of, we work online and then we meet for the vision quest. And then the spiral 3 also meet online, and then we meet for a retreat. So each year you get the online components with always ongoing the dance, so you can bring it into your body, always the nature connection pieces, and then you get the retreat. So it's kind of, you know, that's how the container's woven.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. So the vision quest component will be something in a future spiral where everyone comes together, and then, well, I mean, when you do it, you go off by yourself, but
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Okay. That's formatted in a retreat, but then each progressive spiral is like deepening the material of how you're working with everything.
Exactly. Yeah, you deepen it.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, we deepen it online, and then we get to, yeah, exactly, and then we come together. So the in-person is, you know, quite an important piece on this. So yeah, we get to be together in that way.
How long do the other ones take? I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up all the space, but I'm just curious about, yeah, like how, so 5 months for the first one. And then my understanding is the retreat in Crete is in August, right?
Exactly,
so
yeah.
A bit later. And then when does Spiral 2 begin? Like, just, I'm interested in that kind of time.
Spiral 2, yeah, Spiral 2 will begin probably in October next year. So, I mean, if you just, you know, each spiral is about a year long. So if you join this round of Elemental Eros, then there'll be opportunity to kind of just be in a once a month mentorship container until we go to the retreat, and we can keep the conversation alive, and just like how you're integrating it into your everyday life. And then we get to go to the retreat, and then when we come out of the retreat, Spiral 2 begins, and we go into that process. So, you know, you're going to be held within the cauldron, basically, because it's a conversation, and it's a conversation that like we need to feed it also. So to have the container of it actually allows for the feeding, and it keeps it alive. So yeah, that's what you're all like really held in that process. Make sense? Okay, any other questions? Thank you for that question.
Just on a super practical level, a couple of things. How much would the mentoring be with you?
After we finish this Spiral 1?
Yeah, well, I think it said on the page that there's an option to have mentoring sessions with you at a reduced cost.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was meant during the program or more that you're thinking in that space between, like, because it ends in February, doesn't it? And then August is when Crete is. So yeah, so just wondering about.
Well, what we've done previously is for the women who are coming to the retreat, we've set up a group mentorship, so that once a month we'll meet between March, April, May, June, July. So for those 5 months, whilst the other spiral is going through their thing, we'd meet once a month in the group container, so you can keep the conversation alive, and then you can still come to the dance. And so we don't have a price for that yet, because we'd have to look at it and set it up, but it would be very reasonable and doable. It's not going to be an amount.
So it's group mentoring rather than because I sort of got the impression there was also the option for one-to-one mentoring with you, but maybe I misunderstood that. So
yeah, you can definitely have one-to-one mentoring with me if you want to call that in at any point, either during the Elemental Eros or after. You can call that in. I don't know, we need to work out the pricing, so but we can let you know about that.
Yeah, just to kind of factor in, extra.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And just the other practical question was just that in terms of the mentoring sessions that are scheduled, if for any reason we ever missed one, are they recorded or not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they'll be recorded and uploaded, so you'll have access to those.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And there are sorry, I'm jumping in, but there are ways to connect with one another in the group as well, aren't there, in between the modules?
Yeah, so we have a group, and you can share your experiences, and so you're just very much keeping the conversation alive, and you've got a place to feed into, and yeah, it's very interactive in that way, if you want it, you know. So yeah.
How many, like approximately how many people are usually in like a container? What's like the range, or I'm sure it depends, but
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, it really depends. It really depends. It's kind of incrementally growing every year. So you know, the containers aren't like, they're not 50 people. They're like, you know, they're at the maximum, I think, you know, maybe 15 to 20, but that's going to be maximum. So you're going to get enough airtime, and you can bring, you know, what you need to the mentorship calls. And you know, some people might not have anything they need to bring to the mentorship calls, but you just hearing other people, you know, will spark and feed you and things like that. So yeah, it's intimate. There's an intimacy to it, and there's a weaving, and yeah, feels very personal. Okay, any other questions?
This might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but
Okay.
you've mentioned that this might be the last time that we run Elemental Eros in this specific format, and I'm wondering if you have clarity around that or not.
Yeah, definitely. It's I mean, yeah, kind of come, it's going to be, there's just going to be like a little bit of a reshuffling. It's going to be essentially the same journey. The journey is not going to change, but I'm very much strongly, and have been for a while, getting a calling to also work with the men, to bring them into this connection with the web, because it's so vitally important. I've been working with women for 3 years now, and so that's going to be woven in. And what I've been getting a whole new download, and you know, the work, this is how the work evolves. It's constantly evolving. It's not going to be a stagnant thing. It's going to evolve. So the Elemental Eros, probably come February next year, February, March next year, is going to be called Awakening to Love. And there's going to be a women's journey and a men's journey. And what the content will, there'll be, yeah, the content will be the content. But really what's coming is this primordial connection to our bodies and into the earth, awakens us into this heart connection, into our capacity to inhabit our hearts, which is our feminine frequency, which is the truth and depth of our feminine frequency, which is what happens in Elemental Eros as it is now. It's just going to take a bit of a name change, and the men are going to be journeying alongside. So it's just, yeah, it's not anything, it's not like a whole new course, although it could be. Who knows what's going to happen over the winter, because I'm going to go into the depth and into the cauldron and be listening really deeply, because there's such a mystique still around this phenomena of love that I feel like is wanting to come through and be spoken and be birthed. But essentially that's what's going to happen. We're going to call it Awakening to Love, and other things are going to happen. Does that answer the question? It's still a little bit
Yeah, that feels good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was curious about that as well, Kate, so I'm glad you asked that. Thank you, Esmeralda. And just to clarify as well, Kate, I'm just curious as well, because you said that the Awakening to Love, I know you're still cooking with it all, but you said that the men and the women's paths would be separate. Do you also have like a vision of them coming together at some point, or is your sense of keeping them separate?
Yeah, they will at some point. You know, it would be good to just remember a little bit, maybe take a year or two to do that, and then, you know, this is kind of like the long vision. So I think, but yeah, the time will come when it's time for us to come together, but for sure that needs to happen, because it's part of the it's part of the evolutionary desire of the world that the masculine and the feminine learn how to come together again and heal that the trauma of the disconnect, because that's in our relationships. But yeah, so for sure.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I can sort of feel that spark in me that, you know, of like feeling that need for healing between the masculine and feminine. It's like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe should I wait a year, and maybe it's kind of like
well, I mean, I wouldn't wait. You don't wait for the men.
No.
But yeah, because you're doing your journey is part of that, part of that healing and part of that evolution. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think this is on the website, but I'm just not remembering right now. Is what time are the calls?
Yeah, they're 5 till 7 UK on a Thursday, every other Thursday. So that would be an hour ahead of what we began. Yeah.
Okay. United States can. I don't have to get up at 1 a.m.
Yeah. We kind of scheduled it like that because a lot of people come from the States, which is great.
Cool.
Okay, any other questions?
Hi, I do have one. First, I think it's a very great thing to include men because I have noticed that a lot of men themselves work with a lot of men only. And I find it so frustrating because I find that we're kind of set aside from that whole thing. And I do believe that they have so much things to bring us as well. So I think it's a very great idea that you have. My question is, what exactly do you think that they can that we can learn from them? So do you have a kind of orientation to that about that, or
that we can learn from men? Yeah, we can learn a lot from the men and the masculine principle and that whole dance. So really, like, when I say we're cultivating our chalices, which is we're cultivating our psyche, we're cultivating our souls, and in the myth of Eros and Psyche and Eros, Psyche is the goddess of the soul, and she meets with Eros, the god of love, and they have this whole romantic love affair that's mainly unconscious until she lights the flame and betrays him and he flees, and then she's bereft because she's lost this love, but the love that they've lost was unconscious, and so she has to go on this whole underworld odyssey. She goes to Aphrodite, the temple of Aphrodite, and she says, bring me back my love, I'm bereft. And Aphrodite then sets her these tasks, and then the ultimate task is for her to go to the underworld. And so the whole quest of Psyche is so that she can come to know Eros, is so that she can come to know this god of love. The whole quest of the feminine is so that we can come into relationship with the masculine. But we have to quest to do that. I think this is why there's so much misunderstanding or dissatisfaction with relationships, because it's been primarily like this unconscious thing, and actually we have to embark on an initiatory journey as women. We have to descend into the underworld, forge our chalices, descend into the underworld, come to know our magic love potion, so that we can be primed and forged and engorged enough to then welcome Eros, welcome the masculine, welcome God, back from a place of consciousness, from a place of this, I know who I am, and this is my place within the web, and I welcome you and I invite you. And so really, like, we're doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the web, but we're also doing it so that we can come in the right relationship with the masculine. And when I say the masculine, it's you know, the men and God, you know. So it's, yeah, it's for everybody, you know. And really, like, and when that happens, when Psyche's been on that descent and she comes back and is reunited with Eros, they make bliss, a baby called ecstasy. And that's the true harmonics of the love that comes, able to be that kind of, yeah, that beauty of love.
That's strong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think I will say on that, you know, a woman has to, this is, you know, a woman has to know her place within the web, within the earth, to be able to, she has to have been initiated to really be in right relationship with the masculine. And also the masculine, the men need to have been initiated to be able to be in relationship with women and the feminine. Like in indigenous cultures, the young boys, when they start going into kind of like their sexual exploration, they're taken by the elders and put in the wild for a year, and they're told to observe and be with the wild before they're ready to love a woman. And we're missing that whole initiatory passage, and there's not this initiation and molding and sculpting of the psyche that then allows for this healthy, mature, reciprocal relationship between man and woman, because we're missing these initiations. So that's why I'm also interested to start working with the journey for men, is how to open their hearts and come into a relationship with the earth and the feminine, and as a way of weaving themselves back into the web. And then we can come into right, when we're woven in the web, when we all know our place, we can come into right relationship with each other. But if we're looking to each other to substitute that place within web, then we get ourselves into whole, you know, there's a lot of difficulty and a lot of strife that comes with that, and a lot of you know, attachment and codependency, and it gets, you know, and we all want to live the fullness of our love, and we all want to experience this love, and we all want to have the bounty of that. And we have to go, I believe that we have to go on that journey to discover that and become that within ourselves, so that we can come together in the right way. And that's the only way that we're going to kind of restore and heal the relationships between men and women. So it's kind of like taking this phenomenon of love being like, I need a relationship to feel that, but to come to know ourselves as love and then be able to share it with another. It's an effortless, I won't say effortless actually, because it brings up a lot, but it's just a continuation of the love that you're already experiencing. It's not a sort, you are the source, and you are the source, and you get to share and that experience of the source, but the other person doesn't become your source. That's when it becomes murky and tricky. Any other questions? Thank you for that question. Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of questions today. I'm curious if you could speak a little more to what life and relationships look like on the other side of those initiations. Like how, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's up to each being to create. It's like, I think when you're woven into the love story of your life, then there's no set formula of like, oh, your relationship's going to look like that, or you're going to even have a relationship. But the love that you'll be living won't be dependent on you being in relationship, because you'll just be experiencing this love in all of its forms. So I kind of work with the 3 levels. I work with the love of self, the love of other, the love of earth, the great mystery. So we're working these 4 levels, which is the multi-dimensional experience of love. And there might be times in your life when you're not journeying with another in love, and you're journeying with yourself, and you're journeying with the earth, and you're journeying with the great mystery, and that's okay. And then when, because you're in that conversation, and you're in that source, and you're in the web, when another comes, it's an amplification of that love. And then, so it's kind of like it's kind of amplifying love to this multi-dimensional experience, so that you're always with love, whether you're with a person or not, because you're with yourself, and you're with the earth. And there's such a richness and such a different experience of love when you're in a romantic partnership, and it's beautiful, and it's sacred, and it's holy, and it's like, yeah, we all want that. And to just be within the web is also a great romance. It's a really divine, great romance. So to get that, not just as a concept, but to get that in your body, is so ecstatic. It's so beautiful. Any other questions? Does that answer your question, Esmeralda? Yeah, thank you.
I just wrote down that phrase, Kate, woven into the love story of your life. I really love that. Thank you.
Yeah, it
really speaks to me.
Yeah, there's a lot. We've come to love, and the love story we've come to live. We have to embark on that journey to discover it. But it's like, yeah, to live that love story is such an ecstatic experience. It brings us into this erotic communion with the web, this mytho-erotic communion with the web, and it's just ecstasy. I can't tell you. It's like the ecstasy of living, which is available to us beyond the suffering and the pain of the trauma of the disconnect from the web. Rebecca, were you going to say something?
I didn't have a
Thank
question.
you.
I didn't have a question, but I was just going to say, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think actually that speaks to me quite a bit more deeply than like jumping into a relational container. And I would say like it feels very exciting to me to be like in potentially the last particular iteration of this container of it just being just women with you, but you're pregnant and full with this idea of like the next relationship with men. That feels like a very actually potent space to receive the, like whatever that is, because the next iteration of the container, it sounds anyways like it's, the women will still be journeying with women and taking the women's journey, but then there will also be a men's journey. So it's, yeah, I think this is like, I'm like, ooh, this is the best time. This is super exciting. That's cool.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad feeling that. Thank you for saying that. That's a really Yeah, I hadn't picked up on that, but yeah, it does feel poignant and potent. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Any other questions? We're coming up to the end of the hour. We've got a few more minutes left. Anything left to question or say?
Just one more practical, in terms of deciding about the Crete part of it. Do we need to decide when we book on, or is it possible to wait a little while to decide?
Yeah, you can wait. You can wait. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got till next August, so yeah, you can wait.
Yeah, okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit, like it doesn't have to be any specific way, about how this work has changed your life, and also like what you've seen women go through and like experience, and just whatever about that feels most like, yeah.
Oh, that's a really, I can feel that question going in really deep, but I mean, just from the Spiral 1 retreat, you know, the last night, and each woman coming into her embodiment and speaking the truth of her lived embodied experience of her place within the web, like it's beyond what it's beyond words. It's like there's a magic. It's like when we're tapped into the web, we're tapped into our creational, it's the web is creation. The web is our creational magic and our creational power, life force flow. We're just, there's like this like embodied wovenness of, and it's energetic. It's not a conceptual thing. It's the energy, it's the frequency. And when we're inhabiting and we're like allowing that to come through us, it's just like the earth speaking through us. It's magic. This is, I think one of the women said, this journey is a journey into the forgotten magic, because it's like this. Okay, I'll go into this briefly. I had a vision a few years ago about the priestesses that used to occupy the temples, and these temples used to be the temple of love, and people would come and receive healing, and there was it was sacred. It's like, you know, it's like the churches, and there was a sacredness to and a remembrance and agreement, and then when the temples got burnt, the priestesses became the witches who had to enact their magic in the woods, in the dark shadows, and then they became feared and demonized. And then that magic, at the time of the persecutions, the women had to cut off from it in order to survive, and like literally it was a matter of life and death. So they had to cut off from it within themselves, and that magic went deep, deep, deep underground. And then the subordination of women came, the corsets, the like, you know, this is how you have to be a woman came. But this other aspect of woman that got buried deep in the underground doesn't go away, because it's part of our soul. And so now, like, we've come a long way in like the women's movement and freedom, but we're only just scratching the surface on the reclamation of the feminine mysteries. We're only just remembering it. We're like at the beginning of the potential, of the possibility of opening that doorway. So what happens is we go into our bodies, because our bodies know this place, our bodies know this magic, our bodies know this, and the earth knows, and we make ourselves vulnerable, and allow those mysteries to come through, and reclaim them. So when that starts to happen, it's like a reclamation of this lost aspect of the feminine and our magic. And our magic is our creational power within the web of life itself. So that's what we've been cut off from, and that's what this journey does. It reconnects us and reweaves us with that magic. It's very potent. Thanks for asking that. So that was a really, brief download, but hopefully you just got the essence of it. And to see the women come through in that it's felt, it ripples, it's in the field, it's a felt thing. This is like beyond the word space. It's an embodied, like energetic journey and experience. Okay, so we're coming up to the hour. If you're listening to this call and you have any questions, then please reach out to us. Please email us directly. We're ready to answer them. You can book a free call with me and we can work out if this journey's, or explore together if this journey is the right time for you and the right space for you. Registration is now open. You can book in with me. Register. Yeah, let's do a little dance. Esmeralda's dancing, which is great. Esmeralda's my wonderful assistant, by the way. So yeah, we are open. The doors are open and we begin on the 13th of October. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you come explore. So yeah, reach out to us if you have any further questions. Okay. Anything you need to add, Esmeralda?
Just that we will be sending out a link with how to book a call with Kate along with the replay as soon as we have the replay. So that will land in your inbox very, very shortly.
Great. Thank you, Medea. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's I love having these conversations. Like I get to have them twice a year because that's when we open the doors. And it just excites me and ignites me to speak about this journey and to be in the conversation and the flow. So thank you so much for coming and making it live and making it special and making it real. And yeah, I look forward to being with you.